Rest in peace, Etika. We lost you too soon. Inside the Heaven's Gate cult and more. Welcome to Purgatory. What's going on, freaks and freakettes? I'm Spike.
And I'm mad.
Thanks so much for tuning back into the Purgatory Podcast. We have a very interesting show planned. Kind of not quite as happy as other shows have been. Sadly, depression and suicide are very real problems for many people of all ages. Most people listening to this show, I know that I have and Matt has as well, have known people or experienced issues with depression before. And it's important to talk to anyone that you see that is struggling with these issues. Sometimes it's the happiest people that, have issues like these. I mean, a few years ago, I know Robin Williams committed suicide. The lead singer of Linkin Park committed suicide. The lead singer of Soundgarden committed suicide. And now we just lost, from what we can assume is a suicide, of a very popular streamer. His name is Etika. And make sure to talk to anybody that you think that you suspect might be struggling with these issues, and get them professional help if you have to. I mean, it's way better to have an uncomfortable conversation with somebody than to lose them forever,
One quote I wanted to say is people always say killing yourself isn't an escape from a shitty life. It's more preventing yourself from having a fresh start,
Yeah.
And that kind of sticks with me all the time. It's kind of like, why? I mean, instead of just offing yourself, I don't understand why you don't just switch your life up. You know what I mean? If something's wrong, everyone can literally have a fresh start. You know what I mean? Just I don't know, if you don't like the situation you're in, just leave. You know what I mean? And I understand it's harder for some people than most, but I don't know. It's just shitty when that stuff happens.
Yeah, it's easy to say, do this, do that.
Exactly.
But the reality is depression is a real disease. There's people that are really dealing with this. And it's, for most people, it's not as easy as just, well, change something up, dude. So it's very important to, if you're self-aware enough to reach out and get help, and if you're around somebody that you think needs help, get them help. Say, hey, I want to talk to you. Or sometimes it's not enough to just say, if you need me, I'm here. Sometimes you got to go into their room, turn the lights on, open the blinds, and say, get out of bed.
Yeah.
We're going to do something. Get out of bed now. This isn't healthy.
Yeah.
And sometimes tough love is necessary. And I mean, I went to school in a relatively small high school, and we had a kid that committed suicide, and apparently his little brother found him.
Wow.
And think about that. That's what I encourage people to do, is fast forward and think about your funeral. Think about your parents' faces. Think about your siblings. What would they say?
Yeah.
That's what I encourage people to do. And for me, that's as much of a deterrent as I need. I've struggled with depression in the past. I've been medicated on many different medications at one time and at separate times. Fortunately, I'm off of all medications now, which is great. Part of that has to do with my current wife, because I was on all kinds of medications when she and I met, and I'm a much happier person now, partially because of her. And I just encourage people to talk to people. It's never the answer. It's never the answer. But unfortunately, we lost a very bright light in the online entertainment community by someone named Etika, right?
Yeah. What had happened originally was he had this breakdown in his apartment in New York, and it was all over Twitter, on Instagram. The police came, they had to detain him. They were moving him from his room to the ambulance, and he was just making a huge ruckus. There was a lot of people recording, so you could find different angles, and he's just yelling out just random ass stuff, and they're trying to detain him as much as possible, and then they get him out of there. But and then they hold him in a psych ward for a little bit, but I don't think that was enough, because he's out
Clearly
by the next
wasn't.
month. Yeah, I mean, I think if you're being if you're towing that line, they should kind of evaluate you, maybe for 3 months or so. But I know he was out the next month, and he he went on to the Keemstar podcast and he was just like saying a bunch of like random ass things. He was saying that like life is a simulation and kind of things like what's the point of life? You know what I mean? Like he's like if we don't know what comes after, then let's just cut it off here. Um, and then so I think with that being said, I think a lot of these YouTubers that were supposedly close with him, I think a lot of them should have came forward and kind of went to his place. You know what I mean? Kind of drop everything and go to him because he obviously needed help. Um,
But it's not their responsibility.
I mean, it's not. It's not.
That sounds shitty to say, but it's not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying.
I mean, not everyone can just drop everything. You know what I mean?
Right. That's what I mean.
But it sucks now that a lot of these YouTubers are coming out of the woodwork and they're saying, "Oh, rest in peace, Etika." Like, we were boys, or like rest in peace, the homie, or like things like that. Okay, it's like, okay, where were you in his last months? Because a lot of his streams were by himself. You know what I mean? A lot of like towards the end, he was just by himself. And it just sucks to be like, oh, what if I would have flown in on that night? You know what I mean? What if I would have went to go hang out with him? So originally he had gone missing, right? His apartment was his door had been like, I guess, like breached, and they padlocked it, and someone said, oh, I took a look in there and there was no monitors. So people thought that maybe he took his monitors, he took his things, and he went to like his parents' house, right? He's kind of hiding it out.
Or a hotel or whatever.
Yeah, anything like that. And then Keemstar dug up some old tweets when he asked fans, "Hey, when should I have my next mental breakdown?" And then so one of the fans said, "Ooh, let's do June 20th, because that's when everyone comes out of school." And he said, "All right, bet. I'll put that on my calendar right now." So people were speculating this was another publicity stunt. You know what I mean? Kind of like trying to gain views. And you could tell that's kind of what Keemstar was banking on. He was like, okay, like this guy's probably doing this. And then Etika did this weird thing where he recorded a video in the day, kind of just saying like the world would be better without me. He's kind of saying his goodbyes to Keemstar, to Pokimane, and it's pretty much a suicide note as a video in video form.
Yeah.
And it was just so ominous, so weird. People were just thinking, okay, he's just pulling another like mental breakdown stunt, trying to get some views. And then sadly, I think a day or two ago, they or a couple days before that, they found his things on the bridge, like his Nintendo Switch. They found his wallet. And then what I think is kind of weird is that like when Keemstar first posted him saying, "Oh, I think he's just pulling a publicity stunt," someone in his comments had posted a video. It was like when you screen record your phone of Instagram, and it was like someone was in New York like videotaping the river, and you can see something floating in the distance, and he goes, "Oh, that's crazy! There's a body in there," and people thought that was him. And recently they had fished out a body, and they were saying that they were saying that it was matched like the physical description of Etika, but people were saying no, that's not him. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that look like him, and sadly it was confirmed by his friends and family that it was him. Yeah, but I mean that's the whole thing in a gist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just sucks because it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf, you know?
Yeah, and when you're dealing with entertainers, there's always that, are they faking this?
Yeah.
Is this for views? Even in the most grim of circumstances, it's hard for people to not say that, Yeah. It's crazy that like this dude's entire life was a spectacle, and his death has been a spectacle in a way.
Yeah. It's just crazy to me that how many people like reached out. You know what I mean? We had like Ice Poseidon tweeting about it. We had PewDiePie tweeting about it.
Well, that's great if they're just saying rest in peace or whatever. But
yeah.
When I've had a couple kids die that I went to school with in like car accidents, and we had that kid commit suicide. And what always fucking pisses me off are the people that are like, we were best friends.
Yeah.
You weren't.
Exactly. People like these other people are just saying like, hey, I knew this guy. You know what I mean? I only met him once in California. He seemed like a great guy. You know what I mean? And that's fine. That's fine. But then that's what I was getting at earlier. People who are like, oh, we were boys. You know what I mean? Like this was like my day one. Then it's like,
Everybody,
where were you towards the end? If you
right.
noticed that he was going through something, why weren't you there?
Have you ever have you ever lost somebody like in your school or
Um,
around you?
a couple times, but it wasn't towards suicide.
Yeah. Did you notice that people were like, we were best friends, and they like drew their
Yeah,
name on their truck or on their rear windshield or whatever?
yeah,
And I'm like, I knew your relationship with this person for years.
hmm
You were not best friends.
yeah,
I that really bothers the shit out of me. Is it becomes sometimes, especially in high schools, because everybody's seems like most people are in a competition to see who can be the coolest or whatever. Is people get in a competition to see who can outsuffer the other one, see who can
yeah,
grieve harder, see who can cry more. And I'm like, it is sad that this person is gone, but now you're making it about you.
yeah,
I need to take up school for a week to grieve the loss of my friend. And I'm like, I get that if you were legitimately friends, but there's some people that were reacting that way in these cases that I'm talking about, my personal experience cases. And I'm like, you were not that. You weren't that. You're just trying to make it about you,
yeah.
you know? And
Um,
hopefully people can keep this in perspective for what it is. This is an issue. This is a mental illness issue. This is someone that needed help that sadly didn't get it fast enough.
yeah. I mean, speaking of pieces of shit, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Any of the listeners, if you guys have heard of J Station, does that
I'm
ring any
not.
bells? All right. So this just piece of shit guy. He right now he's milking the views for those 3 a.m. challenges. He's just milking it like for the past like 3 years it has to be. And when XXX died, when Mac Miller died, when all the celebrities die, he'll make a video like, oh, 3 a.m. Ouija board talking to the spirits of
Oh my
said celebrity,
gosh.
right? And it's not even like a week later, it's the night they die. Like the night they die, he'll like post the video out. And he made one for Etika and everyone's pissed. But like, dude, I think it's like it's time people just like we gotta get that account banned. You know what I mean? That dude is just like
Or
it sucks
just
so
don't
some
stop talking about him.
well, I mean, but
Stop.
even
Don't put a
then,
mic in his face. You know.
even then, he's still making money off these like 8 year olds. You know what I mean? So like, it sucks that like our favorite creators are just getting shitted on and get no money, and then this guy's just making like millions, dude. He's making so much money. So I think it's just time to get like we like report his account and just say it's just fucked up. You know what I mean? Just disrespecting the dead. Um, you know what I mean?
Well,
I just feel
I think
strongly
that's a.
about that.
I understand what you're saying, that it's disrespectful, but disrespect isn't illegal.
I mean, yeah, I
Um,
guess it's not illegal, but
I don't think I just completely disagree that people should that his channel should be banned for being disrespectful. Um,
Mhm.
but it's kind of like it's legal to open carry and it's legal to open carry in like Washington or Texas, you know.
Yeah,
But there's these people that will carry an AR-15 on their back and a handgun in each hand and go to into a gas station.
yeah,
And they're like, well, I'm not breaking the law. I'm like, you're not breaking the law, but you're just being a dick. Don't do that, you
yeah,
know? And that's kind of what I like in that too. Is like he not breaking the law, but he is a piece of shit,
yeah,
you know? So we should call it what it is. And I think that in time, people will get older, people will get wiser, and people will shy away from him if he is that much of a piece of shit. I would never watch his stuff. I didn't even know who he was until you just mentioned it.
yeah.
Um, but it's like it's not illegal. You can do it, but should you do it? No,
Hmm.
you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't. It's legal to carry a bunch of guns all over you and stuff and go into a gas station or go into a mall. But should you? Should you do that?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. I
And
got you.
that's a weird analogy, but I feel like it illustrates the point that I'm trying to make.
And then I don't know if you guys heard about like his. Okay, so someone like found a video of one of his past streams of like what he said he wanted his funeral to be. I don't know
Oh,
if you saw
really?
that. Yeah, he
Man,
said.
there's more and more pebbles that keep or rocks that keep being overturned, and I'm like, wow, this guy was really dropping some hints.
Yeah, he said that like at his funeral, he wants to be buried at YouTube headquarters in California. He wants this song, I guess, like Anime Titties to be playing in the background. And I mean, he wants his gravestone to have no name. It just says no bitch and then N words.
Huh.
Yeah, I saw. I think he was taking more of a like he was taking a piss out of people. You know what I mean? He was just
Right.
joking. but people are like making a petition now, and like it has like a ton of signatures. So I don't think YouTube will do all that, but I think YouTube, what they could do if they were smart is kind of, they could do two things, right? They could make like a plaque to put inside the building, just as like Etika, you know what I mean, kind of his subscriber plaque, or they could do like make a garden, you know what I mean, to the side of like the headquarters, and kind of like put some kind of
Here's
stone there, you know what I mean?
that's cool on paper, but here's the problem with that is, are you incentivizing YouTubers to kill themselves?
Well,
Because
well,
then
well,
they'll be memorialized at YouTube headquarters.
well that was my second part, like, because everyone keeps saying on Twitter. So the second part would be like, all right, we're doing this one time, you know what I mean? But just know from now on, if anyone does any kind of recognition like this, we're not doing it. You know what I mean? Just because like this guy was so like widespread, you know what I mean? So I think it'd be nice to do it for him, but they should say after this, like, okay, we're not gonna do this for anyone else. So don't try anything. I don't care if you guys make a video. You know what I mean? Kind of just like laying down the law, saying,
Well, I disagree. I think what could be done. I get your sentiment there, but what does
yeah,
a flower garden or a plaque really do to help the issue? I think what YouTube could do is start like an Etika Foundation and
gotcha.
helping other people with these issues, because ultimately at the end of the day we want the suicide rate to be zero. You know,
Yeah,
and a flower bed is pretty and a plaque is cool, but at the end of the day those aren't solving any issues.
yeah. I
So
mean,
if YouTube wanted to take, if or all the people that are signing this petition wanted to have somebody spearhead it and start an Etika Foundation that will help people with mental illness, help people get help, help people talk to the people they need to talk to. You know, I think that would be something much more positive.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's a really boring thing to say. I mean,
Well, no.
being buried at YouTube headquarters and having an anime titties song play sounds a lot more fun than starting a
Well, I
foundation.
mean, no, I was trying to find like a more like professional way to go about it. You know what I mean? Like what YouTube would actually do, I think, if they actually wanted something physical done. But I mean, yeah, what you said makes a lot more sense. Keemstar, I think, started to like try to. I think someone made a GoFundMe for like Etika's funeral, but I think Etika's mom said like, no, that's all fine. Just kind of start giving money to like charities that deal with like depression or like mental
Right.
illness, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like what you said pretty much. But I mean, yeah, that's the whole like Etika story in a rap right there.
Right. So here's my next thing about this is, does his channel become like the next conspiracy channel? Are people like, he was killed, he was blah blah blah, he was,
Well,
look at this, look at that. We can connect these dots. And then what does YouTube do about some of these videos that, now that we know what happened, it's like that was clearly assigned. You
yeah.
know, does YouTube take those down? Does YouTube take his channel down? Does YouTube, how do they handle this? I don't
Mm,
know that there's been a suicide like this on this scale, because he had almost 1 million subscribers.
yeah.
And
Um,
I know that there was a YouTuber that was killed by a crazy fan at a meetup a couple
mhm,
years ago, right?
yeah.
Um, but I don't know that there's been a suicide like this.
Yeah.
So how do we deal with that?
Yeah. I mean,
That's rhetorical. I have no clue.
no,
But
yeah. What I was gonna say is like, I think YouTube's gonna have to come out and say something at some point. Um, but like you said, like it's become conspiracies now. Two things I think is kind of weird. All right, the first thing is that like I had a friend of mine say, "Oh, like in his last video, he kind of looks a little bit sketched out. You know what I mean? Almost like if someone was like following him." So like they were saying like, okay, maybe like this guy had dirt on him, like some like really like fucked up shit, and he was like, maybe this guy was kind of forced into, if you don't off yourself, we're gonna release this information.
I feel like if he looked sketched out, it was probably just a symptom of his mental illness.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, that's what I think, but I just think it's strange that like he brought this up and he was kind of like he was kind of fixated on that. You know what I mean, my friend. Um, so I don't know. That's just like one thing that kind of popped into my head when you said that. And then someone else on Twitter was saying how like when they found his things on the bridge, it didn't really look like he had placed it there. It looked like kind of like scattered around, like there had been like some kind of confrontation with someone, and maybe someone had pushed him off or something. You know?
Maybe. See, that it's easy to assume a lot of this shit, but I'm not trying to make this about me, but I think it's important that I share some of my story because this is our podcast, you know?
Yeah.
So like I said, I've been medicated on a cocktail of medications or one medication at a time before. And so the first thing I started dealing with, and it's important to say this because you mentioned him being sketched out. Sometimes people are seeing things in their head that make them sketched out. And especially in the dream state, for me, starting the time I was about 8 or 9 years old, I would fall asleep and I would see all the members of my family dying in some accident, probably 3 or 4 times a week. Like it would be a work accident or a car accident or something like that. Like I would see these members of my family dying over and over. And then there were times where, you know how they say if you're falling in a dream and you hit the ground that you actually die, blah, blah, blah. Like I would see myself die sometimes in like a third person. I never, ever, ever to this day, I never dream in the first person. I'm always watching a scene, you know, and there was times where like later my dreams started to progress and I was like, this person's about to die and I'm lucid dreaming at this point. So I'm like, I'm going to try to stop this. My family's about to be killed. So I would try to stop it. And then I would become horribly injured. I would experience the pain. I would feel the life leaving me, you know?
Yeah.
And then I would, like, my leg, you know how your leg will wake you up? You're like,
Yeah.
and you'll just wake up.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what would happen. So I would have these dreams, and I'm lucid dreaming, and I'm in this weird dream state, and I was scared. I would wake up like scared. I would immediately start my day that way. So, and obviously I know nothing about what Etika was going through, but this guy could have been experiencing some subconscious shit that was really messing with him, you know? And then as I got a little bit older, I started dealing with more night terrors of like, there was this one recurring dream I would have to where it was these, I don't want to say demons if it's the right word, but it was these beings that I couldn't really see their faces or anything or make sense of it, but it was like these energies were holding me down and they were like ripping my skin off. And I would have this recurring dream of like my skin being ripped off. And again, I would like I would wake up and like sometimes I'd have to like put clothes on real quick.
Yeah.
And it was just really, really bizarre. And I'm in my teens, you know, at this point. And it's really messing with me. I'm dealing with this for several years. And now I will say this, medication did not help me at all. None, zero. Every medication I had just made me, it would feel I couldn't think clearly. I would be like zombied out, you know?
Yeah.
When I came off medication and I focused more on self-help, reading, journaling, things like that, I wouldn't say they went away, but I was able to have tools to deal with the issues, you know? And as I've gotten older, I've refined those tools to where I only have to use those tools once a month now. You know, I'll have an issue and and then my wife's like, "Are you all right?" in bed next to me. I'm like, "I gotta go get a glass of water or something," you know?
Yeah.
I gotta walk around. I gotta go outside and do 20 push-ups or something and pull myself out of that state so that when I wake up and I'm helping make breakfast and get my kid ready in the morning, I'm not this hyper vigilant, like, don't touch me, like, because because when I was younger, I had just come out of a life or death situation in my head.
Yeah.
Obviously it wasn't real, but it was real enough to me at the time. And this is a really long tangent about someone that's mentally ill, someone that's dealing with real depression like this is going to be sketched out. They're going to be odd. They're going to be socially awkward. And staring at a camera and talking to it for hours at a time by yourself in a room, like every streamer does, that's socially awkward. That's weird. So it becomes very important for gamers and streamers and people that lock themselves in their room for hours at a time. You got to get outside. You got to do stuff. You got to talk to people. You have to break that cycle. Otherwise, you surf on YouTube for too long. You click on related video, related video, related video. You get into some weird shit. Your mind does that. If you let your mind just wander and race, it'll go into these weird places. So put roadblocks in the way for yourself. Make sure, schedule something. Be like, hey, let's go do something. Do that with a friend. If you just say, hey, I'm going to go to the gym, and it's just you might not do it. But if you say, hey, this friend, I'm going to meet you somewhere, now that you're accountable to that person, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Put roadblocks in the way for yourself to break the vicious and toxic cycle. That was what helped me.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was watching this interview with FaZe Banks and No Jumper, Adam 22, and he was saying how he recently had a breakdown, and it was just because of like lack of sleep. He was like he was like up all night, doing like business or whatnot, and he was like drinking energy drinks and taking those like energy pills, and like he was like sleeping like 5 to 4 hours a day, and it really fucks with you because I know like the past 2 weeks I've been staying up all night on like my new PC. I've been like getting like 5 hours of sleep, and then like recently the past 2 nights I've been getting like full 8 hours, and I've been having like the most like vivid dreams I've ever had. You know what I mean? But I feel like a lot better when I wake up. So I think like sleep is super important. Like you don't want to just try to get like, all right, I'll just get like 5 hours of sleep before I wake up for school or for work. You got to make sure you get those 8 hours.
Yeah.
Like every once in a while, it's fine. Maybe like 7, maybe 6 a night. But like at least like 3 times a week, you need like a solid 8 hours to just kind of like rejuvenate your body. You know what I mean? Kind of reset your mind. It's something that we just kind of like don't take advantage of. It's kind of like the fountain of youth. You just need it.
I completely agree. Yeah, I get about 7 during the week, and then on the weekend I'll take a nap on either Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
And it kind of resets me. But yeah, that's our first segment.
Yeah.
I appreciate you letting me talk about some of my issues. I didn't mean to make it about me, but I thought it might be helpful to someone out there to hear what I'd been through. And since we're kind of talking about this with Etika, and rest in peace, Etika, and we wish all the best to his family and his fans. We hope that they can heal and that there's some kind of silver lining in this dark storm cloud. Maybe somebody will get help that needs it because they saw this bright light in our community be extinguished way too early. But we're going to change topics coming back from the break and talk about a little Heaven's Gate action. How's it going, everybody? This is Spike from the Purgatory Podcast. When Matt and I decided to start this podcast, neither one of us knew kind of where to start or how to distribute it to different platforms, and that's when we came across the Anchor app. Now, Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast because they give you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your computer or your phone. Different creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great, and this was the kicker for me. They'll distribute your podcast with no minimum listenership to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and several more. Now, there's really only one more thing left for you to do if you're looking to start a podcast, and that's get out your phone, open your laptop, download the Anchor app, and go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, Madman, welcome back from the break. I'm very, very excited to talk about this. Apparently, you have spoken to someone directly in the Heaven's Gate cult, or what's left of it, right?
Yeah. All right. This is like, it's gotta be like one of the my favorite things I've ever done because like, so one of the most like fascinating things I find in life are cults. You know what I mean? Just like any of like the past history ones, like where one dude was like, all right, I'm so and so, you know what I mean? So follow me, and people would just follow them. You know what I mean? It's just so strange to me.
Yeah, and you read about what they believe, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Why is anyone following this dude? And then you read about it, and it's like there's like thousands of people.
Well, I mean, what's weird to me is like when you see like, okay, like give me all your wives, and all the husbands give the guy their wives. You know what I mean? Like they don't think twice about it. So like these guys are just like they're just like so good at like manipulation, or like they just like have their charisma boosted up 5. But Like, I mean, the other thing is like there's just so many different kinds. You know what I mean? There's just kind of
Yeah.
like small neighborhood cults, and then there's like the ones that like they move out and they live in the woods and they kind of like wear old timey clothes and stuff.
Hmm.
But on a side note, for my high school senior project, we had to do a project on cults, and so they were
What
kind of
an
just all
odd
right.
senior project.
Well, it was for sociology, and we had been like watching like just like documentaries after documentaries about like Charles Manson, right? And about
That's a
like
really, really interesting high school sociology teacher, dude.
yeah,
Holy
dude,
shit.
she got away with a lot of things, but it made me love the class. You know what I mean? Um, so I was looking at all the cults. I thought they all were kind of weird. Like none of them were like as interesting. And I saw Heaven's Gate cult, and I had heard about them previously, and so I chose them. Um, and I've always liked the kind of like that like 80s 90s kind of feel. You know what I mean? And if you look at their logo, it's like so like early 80s kind of thing going on. And actually, fun fact, their website is still up and running to this day from like the 80s or
Hmm.
the 90s. The 90s. It's up from the 90s.
So it's
Um,
like a bunch of 8-bit IBM
yeah,
fucking.
yeah. It's so creepy, but it's like still like active. So when you go to this school, they give you like a school email. So unfortunately, I lost like all of like my screenshots I had from emailing this guy.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, because like they like once you graduate, they'll delete your account, so it was all gone. But to get down into it, if you go onto the email, they have an email there, and it says like, feel free to message us. You know what I mean? Get in touch with us. All right. So I was like so sketched out in high school. I was like, I don't know if I should do this. What if they track me down and kill me? Um, just like a bunch of this like growing up on Hollywood movies and just
Yeah.
I don't know, it's like fueled with this like sketchiness. So I say fuck it. It's just my school email. They won't be able to find much on
First, hang
here.
on, hang on. I think we're kind of getting too far ahead here. Not everybody's gonna know what the Heaven's Gate cult is and what happened.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're
So
right. You're right. You're right.
frame that in first, and then we'll talk about. I know that I kind of led off with you talk to him directly, but let's frame that in first and say what happened, who was the Heaven's Gate cult, and what you know about them.
All right. So I did a lot of research, and there was this guy named Applewhite, and his like, I guess like his the female version of him named Nettles, and they just ran this cult on like the West Coast where they kind of just said like, all right, this this meteor is gonna pass, and it's gonna pick up anyone who comes with us and take us to our new planet. Or we're gonna go to a planet of aliens and we're gonna live like kings. You know what I mean? We're gonna be a different species, and they're gonna love us. So let's just like keep
Jeez.
gathering like resources, and then they rented out this mansion, I believe, and they had like several members, and then so the when it came down to it, they all met up in this room, and they all wore the same thing, which is like super weird. I wish I could know more about like why they chose what they chose, but they pretty much just like draped themselves with like a purple, not really a blanket, but like a purple piece of fabric, and they wore like black pants and like black Nikes. And it's really cool because there's a guy who
Nikes are the
actually
official shoe of
Heaven's Gate
the
cult.
alien planet. Yeah.
There was this guy I think on Reddit who like posted an interview between the guy who actually sold them the Nike shoes at Foot Locker.
Jeez.
Yeah, isn't that weird? And like so like he remembers it, and then so anyway, they one thing that people often get wrong is that they think that they like drank the Kool-Aid with the poison, but
Hmm.
that was a different cult. These guys actually they mix like applesauce, vodka, and some poison into it. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
people like I don't know, it's just such a weird combination that people like all often overlook. But I just think that's so strange that they would choose that route. But I mean, like they were pretty strange to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, if
Yeah,
you're, it's no, there's not really use trying to draw logical lines between any of this shit
yeah.
because you're never gonna figure it. Like, it's just crazy people doing crazy things.
hmm Um, so yeah, when the meteor went by, they all downed the applesauce, and they committed a group suicide pretty much.
Now, were
And
they? Did they do it to their kids too?
no, they didn't have kids.
Oh, okay.
Or if they had kids that their kids were already like grown up. Yeah, like that would have been a bit too far. You know what I mean? If it would have been kids. Um, these just did to themselves, and it's something that's kind of weird is that each member in their pocket they had $5.03. Um, people just think that people think that they thought that's how much it would cost to get onto the spaceship. You know what I mean, kind of thing.
Yeah, like paying your fare like a ferryman or something like that.
Yeah. Um, so that's pretty much like the general gist of it. You know what I mean? They kind of just they
How
went out
long did the
together.
cult function before the suicide?
Well, the thing, okay, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint that because this dude, this Applewhite guy, he had kind of been like playing around with this idea for a while. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like almost like his like for like I guess like 20 years, he was kind of going around, just kind of like talking to people, kind of saying like, oh, you know what I mean? It'd be cool to do something like this. You know what I mean? He would start kind of toying with the idea, and then it wasn't until later that he like started making Heaven's Gate and was like, oh, come join us, and be one of us. You know what I mean? We it's kind of like the Jehovah's Witness are kind of like trying to like save you from like the rapture.
Yeah.
This guy was trying to kind of like use that same kind of stigma, kind of saying like, oh, like this meteor is gonna come by and gonna take us to a planet where we're gonna be kings. So come
Yeah.
with us. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna,
Don't miss the meteor,
yeah, don't miss the meteor. Um,
Put that on a t-shirt.
and then
Fuck, man.
something that's like if you go on YouTube and look up Heaven's Gates, um, Applewhite's like video journals, he has like these like handful of like it's like he's taking a video of himself with like a VCR, but he's kind of just like not really giving you lessons, but he's just like he looks. First of all, he looks super creepy. He looks like because he's looking straight at the camera. He doesn't blink. He's like wide eyed. He's kind of telling you about the like the history and the future and like what's gonna happen. And like in his last one, he was like, we're gonna leave. We're gonna descend. We're gonna leave this planet and go be our final forms." And it was just so weird, because they didn't have YouTube back then, so I don't know
Right.
how they would have reached these videos, but yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
was just
weird.
so off-putting. So I couldn't imagine like living in the 90s and like seeing this like potentially on TV or maybe the internet on their website. It would just freak me out. But
So then
yeah.
so you reached out to these people years and years past after the suicide, right?
Oh yeah, that's happened in like the 90s, and I reached out to them in 2017. So there's a guy and the girl, as far as I know, that still run the website and still run the email, and they take shifts actually. So one will do the morning, one will do the nights. Um, and so I got the guy, and I was just talking to him, and like I was just so like, okay, I have to be super polite. I don't want to be off-putting at all. I want first of all I want answers, and second of all I don't want these guys to come after me or try to recruit me. So I kind of went in and was kind of like, hey, how you doing? My name is this, and I'm doing a project for school, and I'm very like fascinated with you guys' group. Is there any way I could get some answers from you? And the guy was like, yes, we would love to like spread our knowledge. And the way this guy typed was like so strange, because he typed as if he was in third person. He would say like we or us, and like yeah, he was kind of like hive mind, like him and like the other girl were the same person. Um, and so I was just trying to be like super respectful, and I was like, so why did Applewhite decide to leave you behind? And like he would say like, we thought it'd be in our best interest to leave two behind to keep the website running and keep spreading our gospel pretty much. And he just gave me these kind of like answers that would go like in circles. You know what I mean? He would kind of just always tie it back to like the gospel of like Applewhite and kind of like just like we did this for the greater good kind of
So
thing.
he had these answers written up, like ready to roll.
Yeah, yeah, it's almost like they were kind of like, all right, if they ask this, say this. Um, and then like you can buy these like VHS tapes from them,
Of
and
his teachings.
I think so. I think it's of his teachings. I didn't get too much into it because I didn't want him to like try to salesman me. I do want to buy one at one point, but you have to like I want to have like a PO box. I don't want them to have my address.
Right.
So I think it's only like and you send them cash, by the way. You don't send them like checks or anything. They want straight cash. So I think it's like $20. So I've always wanted to like, go open a PO box, send them $20 and see what they send me. Um, yeah, it's kind of like a piece of like weird history to me.
Yeah, that's
But
crazy.
but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my story. I got like an A+ on that project because like everyone else just did a research, but I literally like
Talk
emailed
to
the guy.
crazy.
Yeah, but I was so like scared like for like months after that because I was like, man, like I hope these guys don't track me down. And I was like, I mean, why would they? You know what I mean? But I was just like still so sketched out because these guys were like they had like mass media coverage for a while there, like in the
Oh
like
yeah.
90s. So like these guys were like pretty like well known worldwide. What I wonder is like what what do they do now? You know what I mean? Because people have to be like 60-year-old or like 70s. One thing I
Yeah,
was
I mean,
thinking is
what do they
like
do for a
maybe like
living?
yeah, I was thinking maybe like some like diehard fan took over their email. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Um, it's just so strange to me. Like there's like this whole thing. Um, yeah,
Well, you would think that with social media and if stuff is more accessible, and I believe that like sunlight is the best disinfectant. Like if you can see all the facts,
yeah,
then you should be able to be like that's stupid or
yeah.
that's not stupid, you know?
Mhm.
But that's not the case. Like I would think that with more information, people would make better decisions. But it
Mhm.
seems like there's with more information with social media that people can be led even easier now.
Mhm.
It's just so weird, because you still hear about cults even now. Like
Yeah.
I told you about this, but there was somebody close to me that was all about this teacher on YouTube, and this guy, you look at him, and he like has long brownish hair, got a goatee, he wears like light colored flowing stuff, like he's trying to portray himself as Jesus, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And this person that I know was watching this guy's videos, and this guy was like, "Hey, send me like 4 grand, and we're all gonna go to Brazil together." I'm like, "That's a cult.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't go." Well, it's too
Yeah.
late. It's too late. I already got the ticket. So
Fuck.
this person I know went to Brazil and saw this guy who is a self-proclaimed healer. Like apparently he can heal on the phone
Mhm.
and perform surgeries. And this guy was talking about it on his YouTube channel and was saying like, yeah, you can feel incisions happening in your body, and you can feel him stitching you back up. And he's all the way in Brazil, and he can do these things from miles away. And this guy in Brazil calls himself John of God. And if you look up John of God, you will see that shortly after the person that I know went and saw him, John of God was busted for running a sex trafficking ring. There's always a hook with these people,
Yeah.
you know? Always. There's always a hook.
One thing
It's
I've always wanted to do, like on like my bucket list, all right, is in high school I watched these like Vice videos. Have you ever seen Vice?
yeah.
But now like nowadays they're so political. I can't watch them anymore.
Oh
But
yeah.
back then they would be like, all right, we're gonna go to Iraq and meet this like drug lord. You know what I mean? And it
Hmm.
was like, oh shit, these guys are like putting their life on the line. Or like they would go like meet credit card scammers in like Chicago. And like one thing I would love to do, but I would have to like I don't know, like bring someone with me or like I don't know how I would do it, but I would love to like join a cult and just kind of like egg them on. You know what I mean? And kind of be like, oh man, I love your teachings.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Would you mind if I like videotape this to like spread our gospel? You know what I mean? Because if you play with them, they're gonna say, oh hell yeah, you know what I mean? Like they're gonna think you're a diehard believer. But you kind of
That's a
intercept the
dangerous
cult.
game, my
No,
friend.
it's a super dangerous game. You know what I mean? Like this is like so like I would only do it if like I don't know, like but it would be so dope. You know what I mean? Just kind of intercepting them and like being part of them, and then just being like, all right, I'll edit this and I'll put it out, and then just like disappearing. But I would have to have like a fake name, a fake ID. You know what I mean? Fake passports on me, um, just to kind of like so like they wouldn't be able to find me again. But it would be super scary.
Yeah, it's fucked up, man.
Yeah,
Um, I just, it's crazy how people can be led like that
yeah,
and give their life savings away to these people, you know? And I mean, if you read the Bible, it says that there will be a lot of false prophets that are trying to use the Bible as ways for their own gain.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cult. And this dude that's on YouTube that I was talking about earlier, he was telling all of his followers to send him even more money and let's all go live in this commune in Arizona together.
Dude, when they talk about communes, that's when that's the last red flag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because after that, you're not leaving.
Oh, of course not.
There's no getting out from there. You're gonna be brainwashed, and they're just gonna keep you there. It's over from there. So if you ever hear like commune or like we're gonna go live together, now there are some I know like out west there's like some hippie communes. You know what I mean? Where they kind of like reuse and like recycle everything. And I think that's fine to a certain extent. But there's some that it's all right, empty your bank accounts, sell everything, sell your house, and bring all that money to me, and we're gonna live together. We're gonna have like a giant like neighborhood, and it's just so weird.
It's always one person in the middle that's getting all the money that lives in a castle.
Yeah.
And then all the other people around them, like that dude's little hut is gonna be way nicer.
Yeah.
And that's when there's a problem, is when there's like a person in the middle of it or a couple in the middle of it, and you're like, that's wrong. Like with these Dallas mega churches, these Texas mega churches.
Yeah.
Where you see the dude that's wearing a different Rolex every day and has a private jet and shit, and it's like, oh, the Lord's been good to me. I'm like, no, you're a piece of shit. Like, you're a piece of shit, dude.
Yeah, I've seen pictures.
Jesus didn't have anything his whole life. Jesus was poor his entire life. He died a poor man.
Yeah.
And you're like flying around in your private jet. Yeah. And they did this on the H3 podcast, but when the guy was confronted about like, why do you need a jet? He was like, because when I need to talk to God, I need to be able to get out of my seat and talk to him. And I can't do that on a public airline. And I'm like, you could have just said, I fly a lot.
Yeah.
You didn't have to give me that bullshit about I got to get out of my seat and stand in the aisle and lift my hands up.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to be ready to do that at all times. I'm like, dude, no. You could have just said we fly a lot, and it would be impossible for me to be all the places that I need to be on a public airline. Yeah.
It's just crazy how many people are being scammed out there from this, and they don't even see it as a scam because they think it's going to charity, and it's just literally just going to this guy's pocket.
Yeah, and it's like if your preacher lives in a house that could house an entire pro football team, there's a problem. Mm-hmm. I just, that's horrible. That's it. And you see with cult guys and with a lot of preachers too, they'll wear these outfits. Even some of these preachers are on stage wearing like $1,200 shoes.
Dude, I've seen pictures of them wearing Yeezys, and they're wearing Gucci, and they're like, it's just crazy. It's so crazy to me.
Yeah, and it's just horrible. I mean, it's the whole people are going to use the gospel for their own gain,
Mm-hmm.
But what's even crazier to me is the cult stuff. It's complete fabrication. 100%. Like, how do you even get to this comet? There's aliens that are going to take us away? Like, how do you even get there?
Yeah.
Where does that start?
But okay, well, what's weird is that so we were just saying usually it's for like money. You know what I mean? They want to scam people of money. This guy literally, he was with them killing himself. You know what I mean? This guy, he was the first one to drink the applesauce. It was just weird. So he must have gone on some like acid trip or something, dude. I don't know. Or maybe he knew something we didn't. Maybe he's up in another planet living like a king.
Maybe. Maybe it was DMT, dude. Have you ever tried DMT?
Dude, it had to have been something like that.
Joe Rogan.
This dude just went off the rails and just created this whole story. So I think it had to do with drugs. I think.
Yeah, and just be careful with this shit in your life. Don't get too far down any rabbit holes.
Mm-hmm.
Like there has to be some kind of balance in your life for all things. Like you can't just be on one track with no roadblocks. Otherwise, you'll end up way too far down that track, and you'll go, "I'm living in a commune in Arizona. What do I do now?" Thankfully, the person that I know is not living in that commune in Arizona. But
God.
the point is, be careful. Seek counsel, talk to people. If you're depressed, if you're any kind of unhealthy thing that you're going down, make sure that are some checks and balances and there's some people around you that are going to help you. Because, man, you don't want to be in a sex trafficking ring in Brazil before you figure out that you fucked up.
Yeah, 100%, dude. It can happen. That's the scary part.
Yeah, that is the scary part. Is that this shit is real. This isn't a drama. This isn't a fiction book. This is shit that really happened. People really thought there was a comet that was passing by the Earth, that if they killed themselves with $5 in their pocket, they would get to fly on the comet into another planet with aliens.
Yeah.
That's not a joke. That is fucking crazy. I can't even. I can't even with this story. Yeah. Yep. Well, that's Heaven's Gate cult. Hopefully, we'll cover some more cults in the future. This is just like my personal favorite because I've literally reached out to these guys. But yeah, comment down below what you guys want to see. Any more cults or more video ideas about like ghosts or like haunted cemeteries. I know one thing I want to talk about is like the 7 gates to hell across America. Yeah.
Yeah, but just make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, tell your friends, tell your fam. Make sure to keep tuning in for your weekly trip to Purgatory.
Watch out what your preacher's wearing to church.
Bye, guys.
All right, bye.